Normally, we would do our healing meditation at this time. But I'm going to do the lesson first, and we're going to end with a meditation based on how I've set this up today, okay? So, this month, we're looking at science of mind, which is our philosophy here, and through the lens of various winter celebrations, okay? So, in historical order, these winter celebrations include solstice. Does anybody know or want to take a guess at how many years humanity's been celebrating solstice? 10,000 BC. Before Christ, 10,000 BC. Why would that be? Very interconnected with Earth, right? Very much depending upon the Earth, not necessarily having the houses, the shopping, all that we have today. Yes, I'll get to that, okay? Hanukkah has been celebrated for how long?
Long time.
164 BC. So solstice, long period of time before then Hanukkah. And then the last one we'll be talking about is, of course, Christmas. And so Christmas started when? 336 AD. So about, where did I put that? 1,700 years ago. Now, of course, the first recorded date of Christmas being celebrated on December 25th was during the time of the Roman Empire Constantine. And you all realize that Christmas didn't look like what it looks like now. Right? Not only that, if you celebrate Christmas around the world, even within Christianity, it is celebrated very differently than how we celebrate in the United States. So, and there are many different theories for why Christmas is celebrated on December 25th. According to scholars, Jesus was really likely born between mid-September and early October, not December. Well then, why December 25th? Solstice had been celebrated not just by pagans, but all kinds of ancient civilizations, indigenous cultures, and various religions. By the way, there's 4,500 religions in the world today. And they all had their different rituals, but all of them felt that there was a unique energy about solstice. Now, when is solstice this year? Which is next Saturday, right? So this is the Sunday before the Saturday of solstice. And solstice, having this, people had beliefs that it held this powerful energy for regeneration, for renewal, and for self-reflection. Now I'm going to say that's spiritual. I always like to remind everybody that Jesus was not a Christian when he was born. Buddha was not a Buddhist when he was born. What we're talking about here is people connecting deeply within themselves and with a greater knowing or a higher power or whatever universal source, whatever you want to call that. Because we are unique expressions of that one divine spirit, we end up with 4,500 religions. But they're all about making that connection, regardless of what path you choose to follow. So, looking at the winter solstice is a time of quiet energy where you get this opportunity to look within. Now, of course, you can do that on a daily basis, but there's lots of symbols that we use today. Now, how many of you actually think about Christmas as a time for quiet energy? We've drifted a little bit for some of us, right? But the solstice has essentially been tied to personal awakening for a very long time. And that's what I'm going to create a little bit of space for each of you today. Now, I'll talk a little more about winter solstice on Thursday night, and I'll talk about candle lighting service in a second. The next winter celebration, Hanukkah, as you all know, Hanukkah is a Jewish festival, also known as Festival of Lights. And of course, we know what solstice stands for. Yes, it's the longest nighttime, right? The longest night. But that's like saying the glass is only half full. Solstice is really also looked at as we now turn towards the rebirth of the sun, where it's the turning point where we will see more light. So solstice, Hanukkah, light. Hanukkah in Hebrew means dedication. And the Festival of Lights really commemorates the rededication of the Second Temple in Jerusalem at the time of what is known as the Maccabees. And this small army of Jews revolted against the Greek Empire in 164 BC. Now, why? What does this mean? Well, the Greeks were forcing their own traditions and values upon the Jews. It was, for the Jews, a dark night of the soul time. Of course, they had their faith, but not their temple, as the Greeks had actually taken control of that Jewish temple and had placed Greek god idols within it. The Maccabees, being centered in their faith, won the war and took back their temple. But at the time, there wasn't enough oil to light the temple's lamp for more than a night. But they used their faith and their prayers and their unity and their connection together, and miraculously, the lamp stayed lit for 8 days. 1, 2, 3, 4. We skip the middle candle. 5, 6, 7, 8. So Hanukkah is a celebration of overcoming darkness, not only physically being suppressed, but also of the light and the miracle of the oil. So now the celebration includes 8 days of nightly lighting the menorah. So used to candles and memorial. As well as the celebration includes special prayers and fried foods. It's a time like many winter celebrations where families come together to celebrate, to reflect, and to participate in activities together, recognizing the love and the unity. So, all of the traditions tell stories about celebrating physical light, but it's also about overcoming the darkness in our minds and in our hearts. And looking at it from an inner perspective, we are looking at the spiritual perspective of light always returning and overcoming the darkness. You can bring a candle into the room and see. You can't be in a bright room and break darkness unless you block the light. And so it is with you. Deep within you is a light that can never be extinguished, even beyond death. You are a light. And while events and things may occur in your life where you feel like you're in the dark night of a soul or you're experiencing darkness, keeping the faith and knowing that that light always overcomes the darkness, that that light is there. What causes winter celebrations to stay alive throughout all this time? People, through stories and symbols. Symbols. And as you can imagine, you can look at this without, let's pretend you're a kid, you've never seen this before. You may be fascinated by it, but there may be no particular meaning to it. However, if you've come through the Jewish tradition, this symbol holds some sacredness, holds the story of victory and light, and holds the story of sacredness as you light each candle, reminding yourself of the light that you are, of the miracles that can happen if you believe. There's something still special to all of us about lighting candles in the dark. There's something to it. It is, I believe, the symbol of the light within us. And therefore, Thursday night is the candle lighting service. It will be an interfaith service. We will light the menorah with a special guest who happens to be Connie Asquith's daughter, who is a rabbi at the local temple. We will light candles to honor all paths to God. And we will light candles individually to remind ourselves of the light that we are while singing Silent Night. So it will be special, and I hope that you'll join us and that you'll bring your friends. Today, it's easy for us to take for granted the light because we can demand it and flick a switch. I'm thinking to myself, how many times do I flick a switch and do I even think about it? Demand, my mind thinks, oh, yep, there we go. But imagine being 10,000 years ago, I'm just going to say, in a cave, right? Imagine in the time of even the Maccabees, where light was not a flick of a switch. This season is the opportunity to reflect upon the year and the gifts that have been given to us, as well as the things that we want to let go of. So when we peel back the layers of the Hanukkah story, it becomes a group of people and a particular event vanquishing an enemy by rebelling and overcoming physical oppression. But I do want to mention that this still means a me win, you lose. And that's not really the truth of our being. Really, our power comes when we recognize our unity. And internally, our constant battle is one in the ever-expanding triumph of taming our ego in favor of connecting to our inner light that can free us from whatever we perceive as being darkness for us. It allows us to remind ourselves of our divine nature, reminding us to come into union with knowing the higher self with a capital S that never leaves you. All you need to do is turn towards it. When you remember your divine nature and your union with your higher power, your universal spirit, God, whatever you call it, that's when you win. Win. So I like to say, well, if you can imagine that you have your own inner light switch, those that have been awakened, whether it's Jesus the Christ, Buddha, and many sages throughout time, that light switch never went off. They knew moment by moment, being present, they knew that the power of that divine presence was always with them, regardless of what was appearing. I just, for myself, imagine not necessarily a specific person, but a person that I know would know the truth, who just walks with the peace, spoken by the choir, and the calm, and the centeredness, and the knowing, regardless of what's appearing before us. That wholeness, that perfection is always in us, no matter what's happening to us. Sermon by the Sea is a special event that happened where our founder, Dr. Ernest Holmes, actually delivered a lesson. And we will have the 2020 bookmark soon, where we have chosen books and themes. And the themes we've actually taken from Dr. Ernest Holmes' Sermon by the Sea. And this is just one paragraph from his sermon. Everything that lives proclaims the glory of God. There is one spirit in which we all live, one mind in which we all think, one body of which we are all a part, and one light that lighteth every man's pathway. Our spiritual victory happens when we each awaken to the universal truth principles. And what are those? Love, as Johnny mentioned our meditation this morning, forgiveness, wisdom, kindness, peace, compassion. Remembering those and not reacting to what's happening in our physical, what we see, but knowing this truth and acting from those universal principles. So I also wanted to mention that many times we look and don't even realize as we look to our future that there is a fear, a trepidation. And that fear is not the truth of who we are, because fear separates us from knowing our truth. Fear blinds us. Fear puts us in darkness. So when we know that love is present in every situation, yes, every, even though it may not appear that way because we judge it differently, when we can bring forth the energy of love, truth, light, and peace, we can dissipate the fear and we can raise our vibration to a greater knowing. That is our victory. So solstice is 6 days away. I'm going to ask if you can hand these out. I didn't want everybody to have these questions before the lesson. So actually I'd just give a bunch out and let them all package them. And also, if you don't have a pen, I have some going around. So you can just, thank you. When you get the piece of paper, just read through the questions, and I'm going to go through them one at a time to describe a little more about them. Okay, the paper's still coming around, and so are the pens, but I'm going to move forward. So, I kept deciding, do I want to do this during the lesson? And I said, I know how Christmas is for everybody, including my next week. I'm creating the sacred space in time to at least get you started on your reflection and intentions. Asking you to set your intentions, knowing that in quantum physics, those, when the observer observes the atom, it becomes either a particle or a wave based on the observer observing. Your intention is a sacred thing. So I wanted to start by saying, what are the highlights of your year? And I'll actually share some personally. My son got married. Now, is that special? Yes. And of course, you can never savor that enough, can you not? So here I am at the end of 2019 saying, what do I want to remember 2019 for? For that highlight, I want to remember that event and the feeling that it brought for my family. The second question is, for what? Pens or paper? No. Did we run out? The second question is, what do you need to release from this year? What do you need to release from this year? Now, I'm going to also bring in the third question. The third question may sound like it's the same thing, but I have to tell you, when I asked myself the question, what do you need to let go? That was different than what did I need to release. Let me give you an example. For some reason, what do you need to release? I had a rental in Paradise, and it's like, I need to release all of that work and heaviness and all of that went into this year. Not to say that there isn't still work to do, but I'm releasing that. I am not letting that block me going forward. But then when I said, what do I need to let go of? I switched jobs this year, and the way the old job was, the way I had to give up the old job was not very pleasant, based on the employer and what happened and all of that. And I realized last week that I was telling people a story. And I heard myself telling the story. And I said, oh, I still have some stuff to let go of there. I see myself as this ball of energy. And then, of course, there's energy in this room because of the air, and there's energy in this room because there are lots of other balls of energy in this room. But anything that I hold on to becomes a filter that may not be good for me. Am I ready to let go of that, to open myself to new energy, to be refreshed, to see more light and release the darkness or what I'm hanging on to that holds me down? So what happened back in time and can't be changed. How do you let it go? Whether it was expectations you had, whether it was somebody who violated you in some form, you don't have to understand it. You don't have to make it be processed in your mind. Nobody's going to understand why the campfire happened. That doesn't mean in your heart that there aren't things that need to be let go, whatever that is. Question number 4 is, do you have people to forgive? Free yourself of whatever is holding you, whatever you are holding. Even if you choose not to be around that person anymore, again, forgiveness doesn't mean, okay, then I'm going to come back for more if the person's behavior is the same. No, forgiveness is, I am going to release what I am holding against you so that I can open up and allow that energy to flow. I let it go to the universe. Are there changes that you want to make within yourself? So, actually, I forgot my portion. What did I want to let go, and what people did I want to forgive? My boss's boss, who let 15 of me and my colleagues go. That's what I need to let go of. And of course, then, that's where I also need to forgive. They may be connected, they may not. And the changes I want to make for myself, more mindfulness. I do my spiritual practice, but the contrast sometimes between my spiritual practice and how I'm running my life, I want more focused intention. What fears do you have going forward? And in those fears, how can you find a place to love instead? I personally don't worry much, although I have lots of people around me who worry, so I actually see that a lot. I actually always look forward to an exciting future. Now I can say that, but I didn't like when my boss's boss let us go. So this takes some time and some reflection. And lastly, what are your intentions for the coming year? Again, I want to say to you, if you don't have any intentions, then it matters not where you go, right? And when life then deals you things that you say, I didn't want this, it was, well, then where was your intention? Okay? So now I'm going to do the healing meditation, and I'll ask Macy now to actually play the music in the background. And I'm going to take your prayers in silence. If you have a prayer in your heart, you can hold that within this meditation. But I am going to use this meditation to help create sort of a wrapper to the questions that we have gone through here. So if you'll center yourself, allow yourself to become comfortable in your chair. Bring yourself present by focusing. This is why we focus on the breath or focus on aspects of your body. Because we're focusing our mind on the presence of our spirit right here and right now. And I know there is one divine light, one divine presence. That is the love, the joy, the peace, the beauty, the freedom, the compassion that each of us are. And in this moment in time, as I become aware and present, I turn towards that divine light. I open my mind. I open my heart. I open my presence to allowing this divine love and light to move through my being. I am open as in I do not filter, I do not criticize, I do not allow my mind to take control. I let go of my ego and I just sit in the sacred presence of being. Being the divine presence of spirit in this body, in this community, in this city. And as I open to that and I allow, I can now feel the essence of the sacredness of being right here. Just loving and allowing, loving and allowing. And when I allow that love to be present, then the darkness fades. The presence of spirit is right here. There is nothing to worry about going forward as we live in this presence just right here, allowing this time. And there is nothing about the past that I need to fix or think or come to understanding. Instead, I just allow myself to be, knowing that I am the presence of Spirit. Becoming conscious, becoming aware of this presence that beams through each one of us. We are honoring the sacred of who we are. We are allowing the symbols to remind us that we are this wonderful presence of Spirit. And when we meet one another and when we connect one another, it's love meeting love. It is the oneness of our beingness. And we allow the light of each individual to shine. Whatever the behavior, we can let go of the behavior and still love the essence of each unique divine expression of Spirit. And so we move into this space of gratitude for the essence of our being, for all the beauty that has been delivered here, for all the highlights of the year. We savor that. We release it. We open to our divine, unique, special gifts and our intentions for the year, knowing that as we live on purpose, we are fulfilled with the love and the light and the presence that we are. And so I release this in mind with thanksgiving, letting it be so. And together we say, and so it is. Namaste.